Sometimes, life doesn't announce the moment everything changes, until after the change has already happened. You sitting here, right now, watching these words appear in front of you, this is not random. Of all the videos, of all the distractions, endlessly scrolling past your eyes, something within you paused here. Something recognized this moment before your mind could define it. Something in you already crossed a threshold. Not tomorrow, not someday, already. You have stepped into a higher reality of consciousness without fireworks, without drums, without the sky breaking open. You cross that line quietly, like how night becomes morning not because the sun shouts, but because light simply replaces darkness without asking permission. And I want you to feel this deeply. You are not the same person who woke up yesterday. Quantum physics tells us a beautiful truth that mirrors our inner world. Electrons don't climb ladders one rung at a time. They leap one moment. They exist in one state. The very next moment, they appear in another without traveling the distance in between. Consciousness works the same way. There was a moment, maybe while you slept, maybe while you looked away, maybe while you were busy thinking about 1,000 other things, when something inside you jumped. It didn't ask you to prepare. It didn't ask whether you were worthy. It simply knew the time had come. Your soul upgraded the frequency of your awareness. Your perception cracked open just enough for the light to get in. And now, nothing feels quite the same anymore. Maybe you haven't found the words for it. Maybe you've tried to brush it off as coincidence. But life has felt different, more vivid, more urgent, more meaningful. It's like you've been looking through a fogged window your entire life. And suddenly someone wiped the glass clean while you weren't paying attention. Colors hold more depth. Silence feels more alive. You sense things that you can't logically explain yet somehow. You trust them more than facts. That's what happens in the first hours of a new state of consciousness. The mind tries to understand. The heart already knows. And the body, your precious body, is still catching up. You may have been tired lately, an exhaustion that sleep couldn't fully heal. You may have felt disconnected from old habits, old worries, old versions of yourself. You may have noticed yourself letting go without forcing anything. This isn't you falling apart. This is you quantum shifting. Imagine a computer mid-update. The screen goes blank for a moment. The system shuts down what's no longer needed. Not because it's broken, because it's integrating a more advanced operating system. You, beautiful soul, are integrating. That's why you're here. Not because you needed this message, but because this message needed you. It came to confirm what you already feel in your bones. Something has awakened inside you. You have begun to see through the eyes of possibility rather than fear. You have begun to sense energy rather than appearances. You have begun to listen to intuition rather than noise. You didn't force this shift. You allowed it, even when you didn't know you were allowing. The quantum field responds not to effort, but to frequency. And your frequency has changed, elevated, expanded. That's why this exact moment lined up so perfectly. You could not have found this video before. You weren't broadcasting the right signal to receive it. Now you are. There's something miraculous about these early days of transformation. Reality hasn't rearranged itself yet. Not visibly. Your life might look the same from the outside. The same home, the same relationships, the same body, the same calendar, yet the one observing it all is new. You notice beauty where you once rushed by. You breathe slower. You listen deeper. You feel the world move differently through your chest. It's the unmistakable signature of a consciousness awakening to itself. Picture a bird who spent years believing the sky was only what it could see from the nest. One day, instinct lifts its wings. It doesn't ask, "Am I ready?" It just flies. That's you. Learning your wings were always there. And yes, the mind might still resist. It may whisper, "Maybe this is my imagination." But intuition is louder now. It speaks in recognition, not doubt. If you pay attention, you'll notice that life is suddenly filled with winks from the universe, synchronicities that link your inner state to outer events, thoughts turning into experiences faster than ever before, questions answered before you even ask them out loud. Reality bends more easily for someone who has remembered they are the one shaping it. Don't rush to make sense of everything. Don't try to force the next chapter to appear. Breathe. Rest into the knowing. Witness the shift taking shape. Awakening is not a race. It's a homecoming. You are not climbing to a higher state. You are relaxing into the truth that you have always been one with the highest state. The only thing that was ever missing was your awareness of it. So take this moment as your confirmation. No more questioning whether your feelings are valid. No more doubting your inner experience. No more shrinking to fit old identities that were too small for the soul you are now expressing. The quantum leap has already happened. You are living from a new frequency, and the universe will begin to respond to that frequency in ways you never thought possible. This video isn't here to convince you. It's here to help you recognize what has already occurred. Because when recognition happens, awakening becomes irreversible. Right now, just feel into your chest. Feel the gentle sense of expansion, the quiet excitement, the subtle fire burning behind your ribs. That's consciousness celebrating the moment you turn toward it with open eyes. From this point forward, everything changes, not through effort, but through alignment, not through striving, but through allowing, not through fear, but through remembering. You have stepped into a higher reality. Your journey from here is not about becoming more, it is about becoming aware of who you already are. So take a breath and welcome yourself home. 1. Time no longer moves the same way. There comes a moment on this journey when the clock on the wall loses its authority, not because time stops, but because you have stepped outside the limits of how you once measured it. You've noticed it. Haven't you? Some days stretch open, like a vast horizon. Minutes feel like hours, and each second arrives with a fullness that makes you pause. Other days collapse into a single exhale. Morning becomes night before you have the chance to hold on to anything in between. You look up, surprised that the sun has already crossed the sky. This isn't forgetfulness. It isn't distraction. It is awakening. When consciousness shifts, the relationship with time transforms with it. What once felt like a linear path, step by step, always forward, now feels more like a flowing river, looping, expanding, folding into itself. Some currents rush, some pools are still. You are tasting what the mystics call the eternal now. Time has not changed. You have granas. Your awareness is beginning to operate from a vantage point that is not confined inside the narrow corridor of past to future thinking. The mind is still trying to understand it. Of course, the mind needs structure, definition, beginning and end. It was taught that time is a straight line, but awareness, true awareness, has always known better. Think of a child lost in play. When imagination takes over, time disappears. Not because the clock stops ticking, but because joy becomes the primary measure of existence. That child isn't managing hours. They are living life. You are returning to that freedom, not through innocence, but through remembrance. If you look closely at the moments when time feels strange, you'll see a pattern. It happens when you are present, so present that you forget to evaluate, forget to predict, forget to worry. Time stretches when you are connected to meaning, to wonder, to what's right in front of you. And it collapses when you are aligned with purpose, flow, the part of you that knows exactly where you're going. Your soul is reclaiming the steering wheel. Linear time is no longer the only map you follow. Modern physics has a name for this block time. The idea that past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. Layered like pages in a book, we flip through those pages with our attention, not our bodies. Einstein himself once wrote that the distinction between past and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. You are starting to see through the illusion. You've probably caught yourself drifting into long moments of reflection, not the painful kind where the mind digs up old regrets, but the kind where memories feel like lessons turning into wisdom. Those memories aren't behind you. They're part of the same space you're standing in now. And then there's the future, which doesn't feel so distant anymore. Somehow, you can sense the possibilities before they arrive. You can feel the shaping of outcomes long before they take form. You've begun to experience time, not as minutes and hours, but as vibration and alignment. Maybe there are moments where you find yourself standing still, watching the world move around you, feeling a quiet whisper that says, "There is more here than the rushing of the clock." That whisper is truth, and it feels like coming home. Imagine a man who spent his entire life racing from one train station to another, terrified of missing the next departure. One day, he discovers that the tracks lead in circles. Every train eventually returns to where it began. Suddenly, he realizes he was never running toward anything. He was running away from the fear of not being enough. When that fear dissolves, he finally stops. He breathes. He looks at the scenery he had ignored for years. And in stillness, life reveals its depth. You are becoming that stillness. Time used to feel like a pressure, a force pushing you forward, insisting you hurry, insisting you keep up. Now, something inside you refuses to be rushed. Certain things can no longer be forced. Your being has discovered a higher rhythm. You wake up and sense that today is not for chasing. Today is for receiving. Today is for listening. Today is for letting life speak first. You don't want to fill every hour anymore. You want to fill every breath. This is how consciousness rises, not by doing more, but by being more aware of what already is. But let's also be honest. Sometimes this shift can be unsettling. When the old rhythm breaks apart, the familiar markers disappear. You may feel like you've lost control, like you're floating. Don't worry. This is the part of the transformation where trust becomes your anchor. What feels like drifting is actually alignment. What feels like slowing down is actually tuning in. What feels like losing track of time is actually finding the eternal within it. You are no longer living in time. You are allowing time to move through you. There's a profound difference. Here's a simple truth. When you are fully here, the moment expands. When you leave the moment through worry, stress, or resistance, the moment collapses. So the shifting of time is a mirror reflecting your presence. You have begun to live more from your center than from your schedule. Your soul cares less about the ticking clock and more about the depth of your experience. That's why life is becoming richer, slower where it needs to be, smoother where it once strained. You are no longer racing life. You are walking beside it. And in that companionship, everything becomes possible. The more you recognize this, the more natural it becomes. You'll find yourself trusting pauses instead of fearing them. You'll learn that rest is not wasted time. It is sacred time. It is integration. It is transformation in silence. Your heart will tell you when to move and when to be still. Your soul will tell you what is urgent and what can wait. Your consciousness will keep guiding you forward at exactly the right pace. So if time feels different lately, if life seems to stretch and fold in ways you can't explain, smile gently. It means you're no longer a prisoner of the clock. You are a traveler in the timeless. You are learning to live in the place where past regrets and future fears lose their power, because the present is finally wide enough to hold you fully. This is not the end of time. It is the beginning of presence. Time is no longer something you chase or fear or fight. It has become a companion, one that honors your awakening by slowing down when your soul needs space and speeding up when your soul is ready to soar. You have touched eternity, and even if your mind forgets, your heart remembers. Welcome to the ever-present moment where your true life finally begins. 2. You are no longer pulled into your thoughts. There comes a quiet turning point in every awakened journey, a moment when you begin to realize your thoughts are not you. Your mind is not your master. Your awareness is the sky, not the clouds passing through it. For most of our lives, we mistake every thought as truth. A worried thought arrives, and suddenly, we are worried. A painful memory resurfaces, and suddenly we are hurt all over again. A fear whispers, and instantly we feel unsafe. We merge with the thought so completely that we forget the simple, profound truth. We are the one who notices the thought, not the thought itself. But now something in you has shifted. You're starting to sense a little space, a soft distance between you and the stream of inner dialogue that never seemed to stop. You may still hear the old voices, the critic, the doubter, the one always preparing for the worst, but they no longer take you hostage. They float through like passing weather patterns, while you remain rooted in the silent watching. It feels like a release, a loosening of a tight knot you didn't even realize you'd been carrying in your chest. It's the liberation that begins when awareness wakes up inside the mind and says, I see you, but I am not you. Thoughts come and go. Awareness remains. Thoughts shift and change. Awareness doesn't. Thoughts are like waves rising and falling upon the ocean. Awareness is the ocean itself, steady, deep, untouched by every crest and crash. And now, you are recognizing the ocean that you are. There was a time when every thought demanded a reaction. You felt obligated to believe them, follow them, wrestle with them. A negative thought would appear, and you would tumble down with it, falling into anxiety, worry, self-judgment. But today, something is different. You pause, you breathe, you notice. There's a thought, there's a memory, there's a fear, and in that moment of noticing, the spell breaks. You are no longer fused with the content of your mind. You are seated in the awareness behind the mind. It is astonishing how dramatically life changes when that shift occurs. You start to feel lighter, not because life has removed all difficulty, but because you are no longer dragging every thought behind you like a heavy anchor. You allow them to pass without chasing every one, without fighting every one, without believing every one. Just as you wouldn't try to capture every cloud that floats across the sky, you realize you don't need to engage every thought that moves across your consciousness. Some clouds are bright, some are dark, some rush, some linger, but none of them ever harm the sky. And your thoughts cannot harm what you truly are. The mind loves to narrate. What if this goes wrong? You should have done better. No one understands you. You are running out of time. These stories once hooked you instantly. They felt urgent, personal, and heavy. Now, they feel obvious, predictable, almost like old habits fading away. You may find yourself smiling at your own mind, as if watching a child throw pebbles into the sea. Not mocking, just knowing that none of those pebbles can change the tide. This new space you feel, this gentle separation between awareness and thought, is the doorway to profound peace. Because when you no longer believe every story the mind tells, fear loses its power, shame loses its grip, doubt loses its throne. You finally discover stillness, the kind that was always there, hidden behind the noisy thoughts that never paused long enough for you to notice. And in that stillness, you meet yourself. Not the personality, not the identity you perform, not the one who tries to prove, defend, or fit in. You meet the presence that has been silently witnessing your entire life. The one who has never been broken. The one who has always been free. Of course, thoughts still arise. They always will. They are part of being human. The difference now is that you see them with clear eyes. You see how fear tries to protect you. You see how judgment tries to control uncertainty. You see how worry tries to prevent disappointment. You don't need to punish the mind for trying to help you. Just no longer hand it the keys to your entire existence. You let the mind be a tool, not a ruler. You let it offer ideas, but you choose which ones to keep. You let it speak, but you decide who you are. There's a phrase whispered in the teachings of many awakened souls. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Suffering begins when we cling to thoughts as if they define reality. But you are learning to open your hands, to let thoughts pass like leaves floating down a river, acknowledged, but not held. This is not denial. It is maturity. It is wisdom. It is freedom. You might notice something else emerging too, a kinder voice inside you. A quieter one. It doesn't push or punish. It doesn't demand or fear. It doesn't shout, because truth doesn't need to be loud. It simply invites you to rest, to breathe, to trust. This voice is not thought. It is intuition. It is your deepest intelligence awakening. And every time you listen to it, your connection to yourself deepens. Life becomes less about controlling and more about allowing, less about convincing others, and more about recognizing your own worth, less about battling the mind, and more about witnessing the mind until it softens. This is how healing actually happens. Not through struggle, but through spaciousness. Not through resistance, but through recognition. Not by fixing yourself, but by seeing you were never broken. So yes, thoughts still appear, storms still come, winds still shift and howl, but the sky has remembered its vastness. It no longer trembles over a passing cloud. That's what's happening inside you now. You have remembered that you are consciousness, not the chatter inside your head. You are the witness, not the noise. You are the silent, open sky, not the storm. Take a moment and notice your breath. Feel how thoughts continue to move, but you remain. Feel how emotions arise and fade, but you remain. Feel how everything in your life changes. Yet the awareness watching it all has never aged a day. That awareness that is you, steady, is spacious, free. And this freedom will only grow from here. Because once you've tasted what it feels like not to be controlled by your thoughts, you can never fully return to the prison that once felt like home. The walls are still there, but the door is wide open. You can walk out any time. And step by gentle step, you already are. 3. Wisdom arrives without being asked. There is a kind of knowing that does not arrive through study, through logic, or through years of collecting facts. It comes quietly, like a visitor slipping through a door you didn't know had been left open. It appears not as a thought you must figure out, but as a truth already integrated beneath the surface of your mind, and you feel it instantly, with a soft certainty. I know this. You don't know how you know. You can't trace the knowledge back to a source, yet there it is, undeniable, complete, settled in your awareness, as if it has always belonged to you. This is one of the earliest signs that consciousness has awakened to a greater dimension of itself. For most of our lives, we are taught that knowledge is earned through effort, through gathering information, through memorizing and proving. We believe intelligence is something built brick by brick within the brain, but then a moment like this arrives where understanding bypasses every mental process and lands fully formed inside your awareness. No effort, no trying, no searching, just recognition. And there is a kind of relief in that, a release of the old pressure to always be figuring things out, because suddenly, knowing isn't a struggle anymore. It becomes a remembering. This might feel disorienting at first. Your mind may jump in and question, how do you know? Where did this come from? Is this really true? The mind distrusts what it didn't construct. It wants authorship, ownership, evidence. But intuition isn't trying to convince the mind. It simply offers clarity without requiring permission. You begin to see that wisdom does not belong to your thoughts. It originates in the deeper intelligence of consciousness itself, the same intelligence that grows forests without manuals, that choreographs galaxies without instruction, that keeps your heart beating without you needing to think. This intelligence is ancient. It is vast. And now it has direct access to your awareness. When the mind relaxes, intuition rises. When noise quiets, clarity begins to speak. Sometimes it comes as a sudden understanding, a complete insight that drops into your awareness in a single breath. Sometimes as a gentle nudge, telling you which direction is right, long before logic catches up. Sometimes as a vision of possibility, not fantasy, not imagination, but a preview of what your future is already preparing to become. It could be as simple as knowing that a relationship has served its purpose, even if nothing dramatic occurred. It could be sensing that a new opportunity is coming, even though nothing visible has changed. It could be a feeling of certainty that you are safe. Even when circumstances might appear unstable, there is no fear in this kind of knowing, no urgency, no pressure, just a steady presence saying, "Trust this." And the more you trust it, the more it shows up clearer, stronger, more consistent. At first you might be tempted to question yourself, am I just imagining things? Is this wishful thinking? It's understandable, we were trained to believe that intelligence only counts if it can be measured, but watch how these intuitive recognitions unfold. Watch how they prove themselves through the gentle unfolding of events. Reality starts to sync with what you already sensed inside. Life begins to confirm your inner knowing over and over, until doubt feels less like honesty and more like unnecessary resistance. This isn't magic. This isn't fantasy. This is what happens when consciousness shifts from survival to awareness, when your perception expands beyond the tiny window of the ego and reconnects to the wider field of intelligence that exists within all things. Think of it like a radio finally tuned to the correct frequency. The broadcast was always there, but now you can hear it clearly. Your thoughts used to be the dominant signal in your mind, loud, restless, demanding attention, but now they've begun to soften, making room for deeper guidance. What rises through that space is not thought, it is knowing. Thought is loud. Knowing is quiet. Thought argues. Knowing simply is. Thought wants guarantees. Knowing requires trust. And trust becomes easier when you see that this inner guidance has no agenda beyond your well-being. It doesn't lead you into confusion or chaos. It leads you into alignment. There may come moments when you receive insights about others, a sudden understanding of what someone is feeling behind their smile, or sensing the right words your friend needs to hear before they speak their pain. You didn't analyze them. You didn't gather information. You just felt the truth directly. Without translation, love has always known how to read between the lines. Consciousness simply reminds you of that. There may even be moments where solutions appear out of nowhere, ideas that untangle a problem instantly after you stop struggling with it. You step away for a moment. Breathe. Let go. And the answer appears like a gift left at your feet. Insight flows when the mind stops trying to force what the heart already knows. These downloads do not inflate your ego, they soften it. They do not make you feel superior, they make you feel connected. Because intuitive knowing does not come from your mind. It comes through you, not from you. You are not the source, you are the receiver. And the better you receive, the more humble you become. There is no pride in knowing that the sky is blue. It's simply true. Likewise, there is no pride in intuition. It is simply truth expressing itself through you. And truth does not need applause to remain true. You will also notice that the more peaceful you become, the clearer intuition becomes. Stress creates static, a kind of interference that distorts guidance. But when you are calm, when you are present, when your breath deepens and your shoulders soften, clarity rises like a quiet sunrise, illuminating the path ahead without fanfare. The universe has always been communicating with you through feeling, through subtle signals, through the language of resonance. Now, your consciousness is learning that language. And the more fluent you become, the less you rely on the frantic guessing of the mind. Sometimes this guidance points you towards something new. Other times it asks you to stay exactly where you are. And sometimes, the bravest wisdom is not a call to action but a call to stillness. Wait, rest, let this unfold. Intuition does not chase. It invites, it does not pressure, it reassures. It does not demand faith. It gently shows you why faith makes sense. You may never be able to prove these inner truths to others, but that's not your responsibility. Your task is not to convince the world. It is to remain loyal to what you know within. You don't need the mind to approve what the soul already trusts. Eventually, your life will become the evidence. People will see the calm in your eyes and ask, "How did you know?" And you'll smile. Because the answer won't fit into a sentence. It is lived, not explained. So when insight appears, even subtly honor it. When your inner voice speaks, even faintly listen. When a knowing rises, even without proof, let it guide you. Because every time you choose intuition over fear, you align more deeply with who you actually are. Not the conditioned version of you, not the anxious protector, but the awareness that sees farther than the mind ever could. This is what it means to awaken, to realize that you are connected to a field of intelligence greater than anything you could ever learn from books or lectures. A field that wants to support you, guide you, and remind you of the path your soul chose, long before your mind joined the journey. You are already wired to access this truth. You are already capable of receiving clarity without searching for it. You are already holding ancient wisdom inside your chest, waiting only for your trust to unlock it. Let this be your gentle reminder. You are not here to figure everything out. You are here to allow the next step to reveal itself naturally, gracefully, in its own timing. The knowing within you has awakened, and from this moment onward, you are guided not by fear, not by pressure, but by the quiet intelligence of the universe speaking through your heart. 4. Your nervous system is upgrading. There are mornings you wake up and wonder why your body feels like it has run a silent marathon while you slept. Nights where fatigue falls over you like a heavy blanket, not even the strongest willpower can shake off. Days when your energy collapses without warning, conversations exhaust you. Light feels too bright. The world feels too loud. And then, something unexpected happens. You awaken the next morning with a sharpness in your perception, a clarity you can't explain, a sense that some invisible part of you has reorganized itself overnight. It's as if the exhaustion wasn't a sign of weakness, but a sign of rebuilding. You feel lighter, clearer, more present, as though your inner wiring has been replaced with something more efficient, more aligned with who you are becoming. This is not burnout. This is not decline. This is not you falling behind. This is your nervous system, the remarkable network that communicates every sensation, every feeling, every intuition, learning how to hold more light, more awareness, more truth than it has ever held before. Imagine updating the software of a computer while the hardware is still running. Things may glitch, screens may freeze, processes may slow down, not because the system is broken, but because it is upgrading. Your body is doing the same. It is learning to operate at a new vibrational bandwidth, and that means the old circuits must dissolve. Spiritual awakening doesn't only happen in the mind or the soul, it happens in the physical body. Every insight you gain, every layer of awareness that expands, every shift in consciousness sends ripples through your biology. Cells communicate differently. Hormones recalibrate. Neural pathways reorganize. Your entire inner universe begins to harmonize with a higher frequency, and harmony isn't built in a day. Sometimes, the system must shut down before it can power on at full capacity. It's no coincidence that your most transformative realizations often come right after you've allowed yourself to rest, the deep kind of rest that feels like surrender. In that pause, your body isn't being lazy. It is working harder than ever behind the scenes. It is purging old emotional imprints stored in muscle memory. It is releasing tension that became so familiar you forgot it was even there. It is rewiring the stress responses that once defined your life. It is neutralizing the alarms of past trauma that kept your nervous system in survival mode. It is opening more space for peace to become your default state, not a rare visitor. And yes, some symptoms come with the process: heaviness behind the eyes, ringing in the ears, unusual dreams that feel too vivid to ignore, heartbeats that dance in new patterns, a sudden need for silence or solitude. These sensations may feel strange, but they are not threats. They are signals, proof that your biology is catching up with your consciousness. For years, your nervous system was trained to protect you by heightening fear, by preparing for danger even when none existed. That hypervigilance was once necessary. It helped you survive. But now, your consciousness is choosing to do more than survive. It is choosing to live. The body must unlearn its old urgency. Layers of tension begin to melt, sometimes through tears, sometimes through shaking, sometimes through a heaviness so complete that sleep becomes medicine. And after each wave of exhaustion, you feel it. The heart opens just a little more. Breath flows just a little easier. The mind quiets just a little faster. The body trusts just a little deeper. Sensitivity, too, is part of this upgrading. Emotional sensitivity, energetic sensitivity, intuitive sensitivity. You might sense other people's feelings before they speak. You might walk into a room and instantly feel the atmosphere pressing against your skin. You might find that loud environments, aggressive conversations, and superficial distractions overwhelm you. This is not fragility. This is refinement. Your nervous system is no longer numbing itself to cope with the world. It is tuning itself to perceive truth underneath the noise. In older versions of yourself, numbness was armor. Now, openness is power. Your senses are expanding, colors more vibrant, music more intimate, silence more meaningful. You begin to hear the subtle voice of intuition speak through bodily sensations, that sinking feeling in your stomach when something is not aligned, that warmth in your chest when it is right, that tingling along your spine when your soul says yes. The body has always spoken. You are finally listening. Some days, the shift feels like peace. Other days, like chaos. Healing rarely looks graceful. Sometimes it feels like everything is falling apart inside you, because the parts that were built on fear must fall. But even in the messiest moments, something deeper in you remains calm, a quiet observer who knows that transformation is underway. Even if the mind can't yet understand its shape, that calm presence is your new baseline emerging. Little by little, your nervous system learns a new language. The language of safety. Safety in stillness. Safety in slowness. Safety in presence. Safety in trusting life, rather than controlling it. Imagine a wild animal raised in captivity. Finally discovering a forest freedom doesn't feel safe immediately. The instinct to return to the familiar cage is strong. Your nervous system has been conditioned the same way. Awakening isn't just expanding consciousness. It's teaching your biology that it no longer needs to brace for impact every moment of the day. So be gentle with yourself when tiredness arrives. Fatigue is not the enemy. It is the messenger that your inner world is being reconstructed. When your body asks for rest, it is not giving up, it is letting go. When your heart races without clear reason, it is not failing, it is remembering how to beat without fear. When tears come unexpectedly, you are not falling apart. You are clearing space. Think of this as metamorphosis. A butterfly doesn't blossom effortlessly. Inside the cocoon, the caterpillar literally dissolves into liquid, every cell disassembling before reorganizing into a new form. It is messy. It is intense. It is sacred. And afterward, there are wings. In this same way, your exhaustion is not an ending. It is the holy dismantling before flight. Your nervous system, this beautiful, sensitive web of life inside you, is learning to hold more joy, more love, more presence, more peace. That requires spaciousness. That requires reconfiguration. That requires rest. When energy returns, it feels different, calmer, but stronger, brighter, but steadier. It feels like clarity, like alignment, like coming back into a body that has been waiting for you to truly live in it. You don't push anymore. You allow. You don't collapse into stress. You expand into trust. You don't survive your days. You inhabit them. So the next time fatigue arrives like an unexpected storm, don't rush to resist. Slow down. Breathe deeper. Lay your hand over your heart and whisper, "Thank you for rebuilding me." Because that's exactly what is happening. You are being upgraded not in some distant spiritual realm, but right here in your flesh and bones. Your body loves you more than you know. And every wave of exhaustion is simply part of its devotion, helping you rise into the version of yourself who no longer carries the weight of old wounds, who no longer lives at war with life, who finally knows what it feels like to be supported from within. You are not getting weaker. You are becoming whole. 5. Peace becomes your default state. There comes a moment in the evolution of a human heart when the storms that once terrified you no longer send you searching for shelter. Not because life has stopped being unpredictable, not because challenges have stopped arriving at your door, but because something inside you has settled into a deeper truth, the truth that you are not at the mercy of the world anymore. You are meeting life from a higher place now. Anxiety used to be a familiar companion, a restless voice in the night reminding you of all the things that could go wrong. Your mind would replay conversations, anticipate mistakes, worry endlessly about what tomorrow might bring. Fear sat heavy in your chest, and sleep was a battle. But these days, when those old fears try to rise, they no longer find a home in you. They knock, and nothing inside opens to greet them. What once felt enormous now appears small. What once felt threatening now seems almost irrelevant. And what once shook you to your core barely ripples through your awareness. This is peace, not the fragile kind that depends on perfect circumstances, but the quiet, unwavering peace that comes from finally trusting yourself and life. You have begun to see through the illusion that everything needs to be controlled. You used to believe that peace would arrive once life was sorted, once every loose end was tied, once every uncertainty was resolved. But now you are discovering the deeper truth. Peace doesn't come after everything is figured out. Peace arrives the moment you stop, insisting that it must be. The moment you release your grip on the steering wheel, something miraculous happens. The fear of crashing disappears. The heart softens. The breath deepens. The world feels less like an enemy and more like a companion walking alongside you. You're noticing that problems don't immediately transform into crises anymore. You don't rush to fix what isn't yours to fix. You don't force clarity before it's ready to reveal itself. You don't treat every discomfort like a warning sign. Instead, you meet life the way the ocean meets the shore, without resistance, without hurry, with a rhythm that honors both movement and stillness. Anxiety once painted everything in harsh colors, but your vision has changed. You now look at life with gentler eyes, eyes that know how to rest on what is good and true instead of what is broken. It's not that difficulties have disappeared. It's that your relationship with them has. The same situation that once stole your sleep now barely earns a shrug. The same comments that once pierced your heart now fall away before they reach it. The same uncertainty that once left you feeling helpless now feels like an open road, full of possibility. You are not numbing yourself, you are freeing yourself. Your heart isn't closed, it is rooted. You are strong in a quiet way, now strong like a tree that no longer fears the wind because its roots run deep into the earth. When peace becomes your baseline, you no longer rely on the world to reassure you. You don't need constant validation or predictable outcomes to feel safe. You have found security somewhere far more stable inside your own presence. And with that shift, the things that once drained You no longer have access to your energy. You stop explaining yourself to people determined to misunderstand. You stop trying to fix what was never in your control. You stop giving your power to situations that were already beneath your growth. This is not apathy. It is clarity. The kind of clarity that recognizes where your attention deserves to go. From this higher vantage point, everything becomes simpler. You start to see that much of your old suffering came not from what happened, but from the stories your mind told about what happened. Now, when a thought tries to drag you into catastrophe, you recognize it as just a thought, a passing cloud against the vastness of your consciousness. You no longer chase storms. You watch them drift by. Peace expands each time you choose to respond instead of react. Peace deepens each time you choose presence over panic. Peace strengthens each time you choose truth over fear. You are learning the art of letting go without losing love. Letting go of the need to win every argument. Letting go of the weight of people's expectations. Letting go of the self-doubt that once felt like a second skin. Letting go of the belief that the past has the right to define who you are becoming. And in this letting go, you are not disappearing. You are finally becoming visible to yourself. Anxiety used to silence the voice of your soul, but peace has turned up the volume. That voice guides you now not through demands or threats, but through quiet knowing. There is a moment in healing when the heart realizes it doesn't have to anticipate pain anymore. It doesn't need to be on guard. It doesn't need to brace for impact. It is safe to soften, safe to trust, safe to love. You are entering that moment now, and with each breath, your heart unwinds a little more. You start enjoying things without the fear of losing them. You allow joy to be joy, without waiting for the cost. You allow love to touch you, without imagining the hurt. Your nervous system, once built around survival, is now learning to thrive. When peace returns, life feels spacious again. You find beauty in ordinary moments, in the warmth of sunlight through a window, in the stillness of early morning, in the softness of your own laughter, reclaiming its place in your chest. You listen more. You rush less. You stop treating life as a battle to win and begin experiencing it as a relationship to nurture. There is a quiet confidence growing inside you, a sense that no matter what happens, you will meet it with presence, with strength, with grace. And perhaps the most profound part of this transformation is how natural it feels. You didn't force this peace. It arrived because you grew into it. Because you stayed through the darkness long enough to see the light. Because you chose healing over hiding. Because something inside you refused to give up. Even on the days when it felt impossible, you earned this ease not by fighting harder, but by finally allowing life to unfold without fear. So, notice this softer heartbeat. Notice how little it takes to bring you back to center. Notice how peace walks beside you now like an old friend who always knew you'd return. Whatever you face next, you won't face it the way you once did. You are standing on higher ground. You see more clearly. You love more wisely. You breathe more deeply. And the world feels less frightening because you no longer live inside the story of fear. This is what freedom feels like. Not dramatic, not loud, just steady. A gentle reminder that your heart has survived everything that once tried to break it. And now it beats with a new message. I am safe. I am here. I am enough. Peace has come home to you. And it plans to stay. 6. Relationships shift. Naturally. There comes a quiet phase in awakening where your world does not break apart dramatically. It simply rearranges itself. Faces that used to be familiar slowly fade to the edges of your life. Conversations that once felt exciting now feel hollow. Shared interests no longer align. The closeness softens, not out of anger or betrayal, but out of growth. It's as though life is gently removing the threads that no longer belong in the tapestry of who you are becoming. And while part of you may feel the sting of it, another part breathes easier. The truth is, you are changing. Your energy has risen. Your inner frequency has shifted, and relationships are energetic agreements. When your vibration evolves, the contracts that were built on the old version of you cannot always renew themselves in this new chapter. Some people exit not because they are bad, not because you are better, but because your paths no longer lead in the same direction. Their role in your story was complete. Their presence supported who you were. Their departure supports who you are now. At first, you might resist. You might try to hold on, make the effort, schedule the calls, pretend nothing has changed. But presence cannot be forced. Connection cannot be negotiated. Distance grows because the soul knows what the mind has not yet accepted. Some relationships are not meant to follow us into higher ground. And yet, in the same breath, something beautiful occurs. Just as some people drift away, new souls begin to appear. Strangers suddenly feel familiar. Conversations feel deeper from the very first moment. You meet someone, and there's no small talk, only resonance, only truth, only recognition. It feels like they have been waiting just outside the doorway of your life, ready to walk in at the exact moment your heart opens enough to welcome them. This isn't coincidence. This is alignment. At a new frequency, you attract those who speak the same language of the heart, those who don't fear your sensitivity, those who don't mistake your presence for weakness, those who don't feel threatened by your peace. This new circle doesn't need you to shrink, it gives you space to expand. They don't cling, they flow. They don't keep score, they connect. And you find yourself wondering, how did it take me so long to meet people like this? Maybe the answer is simple earlier. You were hiding parts of yourself to stay acceptable in the wrong rooms. And only now, when you've returned to your true frequency, can the right people hear your signal? There is a bitter sweetness to this transformation. You look back at the ones who left, and you remember the laughter, the shared history, the ways you grew together. You honor it all. You love them, still, just from a distance that honors your path. And in that love, there is no resentment. In that distance, there is no punishment, only maturity, only respect, only gratitude for what has already been given and received. You stop asking, why are they leaving me? And begin understanding. We are releasing each other, no longer clinging out of fear, no longer performing out of habit, simply letting the river of life carry each soul where it must go. You also notice that relational boundaries become clearer, not harsh, not defensive, just honest. You no longer tolerate conversations that drain your spirit. You no longer attach to relationships that require you to abandon yourself. You no longer bend your truth to keep the peace. Love and self-respect are no longer opposites, they walk together. And in protecting your inner peace, you attract those who value peace too. There will be moments of loneliness, times when the space left behind feels like a void. But emptiness is not a punishment, it is a clearing, making room for the relationships that match the frequency of your future, not your past. Transformation often arrives disguised as solitude. It's the universe asking you to grow your roots deeper before offering you a new garden to bloom in. And you will bloom not into someone unrecognizable, but into someone more you than you've ever been allowed to be. Notice how the ones who stay now are the ones who make you feel understood without needing explanations. They hear the words you don't say. They celebrate your victories because your light doesn't threaten theirs. They hold space for your vulnerability because they know vulnerability is holy. These are soul connections, effortless yet profound, gentle yet transformative. You won't need to be perfect to be loved by them. You'll only need to be real. Something else shifts too. Your relationship with yourself. The inner critic softens. The inner child feels safer. The inner adult stands steadier. You become your own companion, kind, patient, present. You start to enjoy your own company, more than the company that once kept you distracted from emptiness. You discover that wholeness was never meant to be delivered by others, only reflected by them. When you stop seeking from desperation, love begins to arrive as destiny. With time, you look back and realize how natural this pruning was. Every loss was a liberation. Every goodbye was a gate opening. Every ending was in alignment with a truer beginning. The universe did not take anything away. It only removed what you had already outgrown. Relationships shift when consciousness rises, because truth becomes the foundation for connection. And truth has no interest in keeping what is false. So let those who leave go gently. Let those who stay, stay freely. And let those who enter be welcomed with an open heart that no longer fears change. The people meant for you will feel like home, not because they remind you of your past, but because they support the future you are stepping into. Your frequency has elevated, and the souls who rise with you will meet you at the altitude of love, the place where connection isn't earned by effort, but recognized instantly by resonance. 7. Joy appears without any reason. There is a very particular kind of joy that begins to rise within you when the heart finally remembers its own nature. It's not the joy that needs achievement to justify itself. It's not the joy that waits for the world to behave perfectly before it dares to shine. It's not the joy dependent on praise, validation, or special occasions. This joy is simpler, softer. It comes quietly, like sunlight slipping through the cracks of closed curtains, illuminating the room without ever being invited. And the strangest part is you don't have to do anything to deserve it. One morning, you wake up, and there it is, a small warmth in your chest, a gentle excitement about nothing in particular, a sense that life itself is enough. No grand success, no extraordinary news, just a quiet realization that it feels good to exist. This kind of joy was always inside you, but for so long it was buried under layers of worry, self-protection, and the endless chase to prove something. You believed joy needed a reason: a good day, good company, good fortune. You believed happiness was a reward, something earned after all tasks were completed and every doubt was silenced. But joy doesn't operate by those rules. Joy is the natural fragrance of a consciousness that is no longer carrying the weight of fear. As you heal, as you release old narratives, as you stop waging war with yourself, something in your energy lightens and joy rises, the way air always rises effortlessly. It's the joy of breathing and realizing breath itself is a miracle. The joy of stepping outside and feeling the wind touch your skin, as though it has known you forever. The joy of noticing the way sunlight plays on leaves, how water holds light inside it, like tiny stars. None of these moments changed. You did. Your awareness has softened enough to allow life to reach you again, to touch you, to move you, to remind you that beauty was never absent, only unnoticed. You might find yourself smiling for no reason, laughing at nothing, feeling gratitude overflow without a single event prompting it. This is not foolishness. This is freedom. It means the mind is no longer measuring your worth against productivity or perfection. It means your heart is awakening from a long sleep, stretching its wings, remembering that joy was its first language, before fear taught it silence. There is a peace in this joy, a steady pulse that reminds you of your true home inside yourself. You don't need excitement for joy to exist. It doesn't spike and crash like pleasure does. It holds you steadily, like a hand placed over your heart, in reassurance. It does not ask for attention, but your attention makes it grow. You might notice, too, that things you used to chase simply don't hold the same power anymore. You aren't looking for something out there to complete you, because a quiet fullness has made its home inside your chest. You are no longer filling an inner void because the void has been replaced by presence, by acceptance, by love that doesn't need a target to feel real. This joy teaches you that you don't have to earn life, you only have to allow it. There were times in the past when you believed happiness was fragile, easily lost, easily ruined. You treated joy as though it was expensive, something you had to be careful with, something you couldn't trust. But now, joy feels like something eternal, not a visitor, but a companion, not a lucky moment, but a birthright returning to its rightful place. Of course, life still brings challenges. There are still days where heaviness returns, where clouds blanket the sky. But the difference is profound. You no longer fear those clouds. You know the light hasn't disappeared. It's simply resting behind temporary weather. Even in your sadness now, there is a quiet thread of peace running through the center of it. Even in your struggles, there is a memory of joy waiting patiently beneath the surface. You've learned that emotions come in waves, but the ocean beneath remains stable. And when the wave of joy arrives, you don't cling or question. You receive it the way a tree receives spring naturally, without the need to justify the blooming. Sometimes joy will catch you off guard. You might be washing dishes, or sitting at a stoplight, or folding laundry, and suddenly a swell of appreciation rises inside you. So real, it nearly brings tears to your eyes. Because in that ordinary moment, you feel the extraordinary gift of being alive. You see that the mundane things you once complained about are actually evidence that you have a life worth living, people to love, a home to care for, a body to inhabit, a heart still capable of wonder. You start noticing that joy arrives most easily when you are present, when you are not replaying the past or rehearsing the future, when you are simply here, breathing, watching, receiving. Joy is not found by running. It appears when you finally stop running. There is a sacredness in this shift, the realization that you no longer need drama to feel alive. You no longer need the adrenaline of chaos to know you exist. Life becomes beautiful in slow motion. You begin savoring instead of consuming. You begin living instead of enduring. And little by little, the soul relaxes into itself. This joy doesn't isolate you, it connects you. You feel more compassion for others, more softness toward their struggles, because you know how long it takes to reach this ease. You become kinder not because you are trying to be good, but because goodness is what naturally rises when fear dissolves. Joy, true joy, is contagious. People feel safer around you. They feel seen. They feel lighter just by being in your presence. Because joy that is rooted in awareness doesn't boast, it invites. And here is the most beautiful part: you begin to trust joy. You stop bracing for it to disappear. You stop sabotaging it with worry. You stop doubting it as a trick of the moment. Instead, you let joy stay as long as it wants. You let it fill every corner of you. You let it rewrite the stories that once told you life was hard and happiness rare. This is what awakening feels like: joy. Not as a reward, but as your natural condition returning after years of being covered. Joy that doesn't need permission. Joy that doesn't apologize for existing. Joy that comes not from having more, but from being more present. Joy that emerges from the heart like a memory, a reminder that you were always meant to feel this way. So when joy arrives uninvited, open the door wide. Let it wander through your thoughts. Let it soften your breath. Let it hum through your bones. Let it remind you that you are alive not just to survive, but to feel deeply, fully, honestly. This joy is you, stripped of sorrow's disguise. This joy is the soul remembering its song. And now that the song has begun to play again, it won't be silenced, not anymore. 8. New vibrations emerge in the body. One of the most surprising shifts on this journey doesn't happen in the mind or even in the heart. It happens in the body. Quietly, subtly, almost mysteriously. You might be sitting still, doing nothing unusual at all, when suddenly a gentle warmth rises along your spine, or a soft wave of tingling spreads across your arms, or a pulse of energy flickers beneath your skin like tiny sparks waking up nerve pathways that had been dormant for years. It can feel strange, even a little unsettling in the beginning. But then, a deeper recognition follows, a sense that something inside you is turning back on. Something that you once had, but forgot. These sensations are not random. They are signals of activation. Your body adjusting to a new frequency of consciousness. Your nervous system is learning to communicate in a new way, a more refined way, beyond the language of tension and stress that once dominated your inner landscape. Think of your body like a musical instrument that is being retuned. The strings that were once tightened in fear are loosening, and the strings that lay silent are beginning to vibrate again. Not because something is wrong, but because something is waking up. These new sensations often show up first along the spine, because the spine is more than a column of bones. It is the main highway of your energetic anatomy, the place where your physical and spiritual systems meet. When life force increases, when consciousness expands, when old emotional weight is released, energy begins to move more freely up and down that central channel. Warmth rises like sunlight. Tingling follows the pathways where awareness is reconnecting to the body. A soft buzzing appears in areas that once were dull or ignored. These are signs of healing, of reconnection, of aliveness, returning to places that had been numbed by survival. For so long, your body learned to contract. Every trauma, every disappointment, every moment you had to hold yourself together. Those memories live not only in the mind, but in the tissue, in the muscles, in the fascia, in the breath. The body remembers everything the mind tries to forget. And when consciousness shifts to a higher rhythm, the body has no choice but to adjust. Tension begins to release, but release is not always quiet. Sometimes it feels like shaking, sometimes like trembling under the skin. Sometimes the heart beats faster as old protection mechanisms dissolve. Sometimes tears appear for no reason at all, not sadness, but energy leaving. These sensations are like the creaks and groans of a house settling into a stronger foundation. The building isn't collapsing, it is stabilizing. You might notice that even when your mind feels calm, your body still buzzes with a subtle electricity. That's because the body is updating itself to match the new clarity of your consciousness. Awareness got there first, and now the physical form is catching up. There will also be moments of increased sensitivity to food, to sound, to crowds, to the emotions of others. You might feel overwhelmed by places or people you once tolerated easily. This is because your body is no longer numbing itself to survive. Your senses are clearing, sharpening, tuning into truth. Sensitivity is not weakness. It is intelligence restored. The body is learning to tell you when something is aligned and when something is not. Perhaps you have felt a sudden rush of energy at the center of your chest, not anxiety, but expansion, or a tingling in the palms of your hands, as if they are ready to give or receive something unseen, or a soft pressure between the eyebrows like a light trying to shine from behind your forehead. These sensations are the body's way of saying, I remember the language of the soul. Some days, the energy flows so smoothly that you feel weightless, like gravity has loosened its grip on your bones. Other days, it gathers in heavy waves that make you tired. Slow, quiet. Don't mistake heaviness for regression. Heaviness often comes right before a deeper release. The body always integrates change before it reveals the transformation. It's important to understand nothing about this is forced. You are not doing anything wrong. You are not breaking. You are evolving. The body you inhabit today is not the same body that carried your fear for so many years. It has learned that it no longer needs to armor itself against life. It can open, it can feel, it can communicate what the heart has been whispering all along. Maybe you find yourself instinctively placing your hand on your heart more often. Maybe you stretch your spine without thinking. Maybe you breathe deeper without trying. These small gestures are not random. They are your body choosing healing. For the first time in a very long time, you are inhabiting your body, not escaping it. And with this reconnection comes something profound: trust. You begin to trust your body again, not as a fragile machine to manage, but as a wise companion guiding you. Every pulse, every warmth, every vibration is a message. Stay present, stay soft, stay aware. When fear used to arise, the body braced. Now, when love arises, the body opens. Over time, these sensations become familiar. You stop questioning them. You recognize them as signs that your inner world is expanding into the physical. You notice that the more you breathe into them, the deeper the peace that follows. The body teaches you that healing is not something that happens to you, it happens through you. Moment by moment, cell by cell. What a miracle it is to feel yourself alive from the inside. To feel energy move not as anxiety, but as vitality. To feel warmth not as fever, but as life force. To feel sensations not as warning signs, but as proof that you are awakening. And perhaps the most beautiful realization of all, your body is not the obstacle to enlightenment. It is the doorway. Every vibration, every tingle, every rush of heat is a signal that the door is open. You are not floating away to some distant spiritual realm. You are descending fully into yourself, embodying awareness, embodying presence, embodying the truth that divinity and humanity were never separate to begin with. So when energy surges through your spine, breathe. When warmth floods your chest, welcome it. When your skin vibrates with quiet electricity, be curious. This is your evolution made visible. This is your biology learning to speak the language of your soul. This is your awakening becoming real and flesh and bone. Honor the process. Trust the intelligence unfolding inside you. Your body, this sacred temple you once criticized, doubted, abandoned, has been waiting patiently for you to return, to listen, to feel, to live completely within it. And now that you are here, it is celebrating in signals, in sensation, in new currents of life. What you feel is not strange. It is not random. It is not imagined. It is remembrance. 9. You no longer tolerate what doesn't belong to you. There was a time in your life when you spent enormous energy trying to fit into places that didn't feel like home. You held your breath to keep the peace. You bent yourself into smaller shapes so others could feel more comfortable. You said yes when your entire being was quietly begging you to say no. You tolerated behavior that chipped away at your joy because you were afraid of disappointing anyone. You swallowed your truth so many times that your voice forgot how to rise. You carried the weight of other people's expectations as if your worth depended on their approval, and you convinced yourself that endurance was love. But that version of you is fading. As consciousness expands, the body and heart can no longer pretend. They reject what once felt acceptable. There is a shift so subtle that you almost miss it at first. The moment you realize that discomfort isn't part of growth anymore, it's a signal, a boundary forming, a deep knowing emerging. It's your soul saying, I cannot shrink any longer. You feel it in situations that once drained you silently. You feel it in conversations where you used to force a smile. You feel it in the heaviness that appears when you're around people who don't honor your presence. You feel it when you try to dim your light, and your heart gently whispers, not anymore. This is not rebellion. This is restoration. The collapse of an outdated survival strategy, the old programming, the one that taught you to keep quiet, to be agreeable, stay small, is dissolving. Not because you suddenly want conflict, but because you've stopped abandoning yourself to avoid it. You are learning that peace isn't the absence of disagreement. It's the presence of authenticity. And authenticity doesn't ask permission. Once you begin to taste what self-respect feels like in the body, how steady the breath becomes, how calm the heart feels, you cannot return to a life spent betraying yourself. Your nervous system refuses to carry that weight anymore. Your spirit refuses to negotiate its worth. It becomes clear that anything costing you your sense of self is too expensive. You no longer tolerate relationships built on imbalance, where you give endlessly and receive breadcrumbs of love in return. You no longer stay in rooms where your softness is mistaken for weakness. You no longer chase validation that never arrives. You no longer confuse loyalty with self-abandonment. When someone does not meet you with honesty or respect, you feel the energy shift long before the mind catches up, not to judge, but to protect what is sacred within you. And what's sacred is growing. There's a new intelligence rising inside you, the intelligence of alignment. You feel when a situation harmonizes with your truth. You feel when something is off, even without words. Your body has become a compass, and it no longer points toward places where love cannot breathe. As you grow, you realize that being kind was often a mask for fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being misunderstood. Now kindness remains, but it is rooted in honesty rather than sacrifice. You don't raise your voice. Your vibration does the speaking. You don't build walls. You build boundaries. And boundaries do not separate you from others. They protect the space where love can flourish. You stop convincing people to see your value because you finally see it yourself. There might be grief in this transformation. Grief for the time you spent trying to be acceptable. Grief for the parts of you that had to disappear so others could stay. Grief for the pieces of your identity that were shaped by pleasing rather than choosing. But grief does not mean regret. Grief is the body honoring the end of a long chapter. Every awakening requires a letting go. Every expansion sheds a layer. Every liberation begins with a refusal, a simple, quiet no more. And slowly, the world around you shifts in response. People who once drained you quietly fade into the background. People who manipulate or disrespect you lose access to your energy. Situations that once held you hostage dissolve because they can no longer hook into your fear. You do not push them away. You simply rise above the frequency that once kept you tangled. You are not fighting anyone. You are just no longer available for anything that minimizes your existence. The more you honor what feels true, the more life removes what isn't. And then, something beautiful happens. You begin to meet people who see you clearly, without requiring explanations. They value your presence without conditions. They speak in the same language of honesty and openness. These connections do not drain you. They nourish you. They don't tighten your chest. They expand it. They don't ask you to earn love. They recognize love as the natural state between two souls aligned in truth. This is what happens when you stop settling. The universe finally brings you what you deserve. You also realize that you don't need to justify your boundaries to anyone. You don't need to explain why something no longer feels right. You don't need to apologize for choosing peace over familiarity. The moment you trust yourself deeply enough, permission from others becomes irrelevant. And through all this, you soften not into submission, but into authenticity. You soften into acceptance of your own needs. You soften into the honesty of your inner voice. You soften into relationships where you don't have to shrink. You soften into a life where dignity and compassion are not opposites, they are partners. Every time you choose yourself kindly, your soul exhales. Thank you. So when you notice yourself walking away from what once held you hostage, honor that movement. When the thought of returning to old patterns makes your body tighten, of trust that signal. When truth rises in your throat, even shakily, let it speak. You are not becoming difficult. You are becoming real. You are learning that love doesn't require suffering as proof. You are learning that inner peace matters too much to be traded for approval. You are learning that self-worth is not something others grant, it's something you reclaim. And as your frequency rises, you will feel the world recalibrate around you. People who resonate with your truth will find you. People who don't will simply fade. Not out of hostility, but out of evolution. You have changed. Your energy has changed. Your life is changing. And you are no longer willing to carry anything that cannot rise with you. 10. Synchronicity becomes the new language of life. There comes a point on this inner journey when you begin to notice the beautiful pattern. The world responds to you, not in a metaphorical sense, but directly, clearly, sometimes with astonishing precision. You think of someone you haven't spoken to in years, and they call that afternoon. You wonder about the answer to a question that has been stirring quietly in your mind, and the answer appears on a billboard, or in a book that falls open to the exact page, or in a passing sentence spoken by a stranger who doesn't realize they've just delivered divine timing. You're not imagining it. You're not being dramatic. Reality really is moving closer to you because you've stopped running from yourself. When your frequency shifts into clarity, life has a way of aligning around that clarity. You can feel events, people, opportunities beginning to orbit your energy instead of you chasing after them with desperation. It's as if the universe has always been trying to help you, but only now. Do you finally speak the same language? Synchronicity is that language, those coincidences that feel too perfect to dismiss, those moments that make you pause and think, something larger is happening here. And that thought, that recognition, marks the beginning of conscious co-creation. There was a time when life felt random, unpredictable, even cruel at moments. You believed you were at the mercy of circumstance. But now you see that life is not reacting to your actions. It is responding to your alignment. The more honest you are with yourself, the more precise the reflection becomes, the more peaceful you feel inside, the more peaceful the world around you becomes, the more clear your intentions are, the faster they show up in form. You start noticing patterns, numbers repeating on clocks, messages arriving in 2s and 3s, symbols appearing just when you needed reassurance. These signs have always been there, but before, you were too busy surviving to notice. Now, you are awake enough to see the magic that has always been woven into the ordinary. You realize that nothing is random in a universe made of consciousness. Everything is communication. The real shift is that your attention has changed. You no longer look for threats, you look for meaning. When you stop expecting the worst, reality stops delivering it. When you stop doubting yourself, opportunities stop avoiding you. When your heart opens, life opens with it. And synchronicity becomes your proof, gentle, persistent proof that you are not walking alone. These winks from the universe often arrive exactly when doubt tries to creep back in. You may wonder if you're really growing, if the peace you feel is real, if this transformation will last. Then suddenly a message arrives, a sign appears, a connection forms, and it's like the universe reaches out and whispers, "Keep going. You are on the right path." There is something intimate in these moments. It's a kind of partnership with existence. You ask, life answers. You step, the path appears. You let go. What is meant for you flows in. The delays make sense. The rejections reveal protection. The mistakes reveal direction. Every piece that once seemed disconnected emerges as part of a design far wiser than anything you could have planned. Synchronicity also reveals something else. Your intuition is becoming accurate. You feel something before it happens, and then it happens. You sense who will stay and who will go long before the ending arrives. You recognize opportunities, not with logic, but with resonance. The mind tries to explain it. The heart simply knows. And what a relief it is to no longer feel lost in this world. To know that you are being guided, not by superstition, not by blind faith, but by a living, breathing intelligence that moves through every corner of existence. An intelligence that responds when you align with truth. You also notice that fear disrupts synchronicity because fear creates static in the signal. But when you return to presence, the harmony returns. The world becomes mirrors again, reflecting your inner state with stunning accuracy. There's no more room for playing victim. Not because suffering doesn't happen, but because you now see how powerful your alignment is. You recognize that you can choose the frequency you broadcast, and the universe will match it. This doesn't mean everything becomes perfect. It means everything becomes meaningful. Even the struggles feel purposeful, like stepping stones rather than pitfalls. And that changes everything. You no longer panic when the path bends, because you trust that life bends it for a reason. You no longer cling to answers, because you trust they will arrive when you are ready to understand them. You no longer chase what isn't meant for you, because you trust what is meant will never require you to beg for it. The more you relax into this partnership with reality, the faster synchronicity amplifies. You feel like you are dancing with life instead of wrestling with it. You laugh more. You worry less. You watch the world unfold with curiosity instead of fear. You treat delays as divine timing rather than punishment. You treat unexpected changes as guidance rather than mistakes. And slowly, life stops being something you endure. It becomes something you co-create. That is the secret hidden inside synchronicity. It reminds you that you matter. Your thoughts matter. Your feelings matter. Your frequency matters. You are not a bystander. Here you are a participant in the unfolding of reality. So when that message arrives at the perfect moment, when you cross paths with someone who changes everything, when the missing piece shows up without you searching, don't brush it off. Smile. Feel the way the universe is smiling back at you through the fabric of coincidence. Let yourself marvel a little, because the moment you stop dismissing the magic stops needing to knock so loudly to get your attention. This is the life you were meant to live, one where meaning is everywhere, where guidance is constant, where connection is the rule rather than the exception. Trust the flow, trust the signs, trust the alignment that is unfolding inside you and around you. Because when your frequency becomes clear, reality becomes responsive. And the universe, which once felt indifferent, now feels like a companion, not above you, not controlling you, but walking with you, whispering through synchronicity that every step forward is recognized, supported, and celebrated. You are seen. You are guided. You are exactly where you need to be. 11. Realizing everything was part of the journey. There comes a moment, subtle yet revolutionary, when you look back at the landscape of your past and feel something you never expected to feel: gratitude. Not just for the joy, not just for the victories or the beautiful coincidences, but for the heartbreaks, the disappointments, the sleepless nights where you wondered if life had forgotten you. You begin to see that nothing was wasted. Not the tears, not the mistakes, not the days you felt completely lost. Every step, even the ones you thought were wrong turns, were leading you here, to this deeper version of yourself, the one who finally understands that growth often arrives disguised as suffering. You remember the moments you thought you were breaking and realize you were actually breaking open. The times you begged life to let someone stay, and now you're grateful they left. The chapters you clung to because you didn't know who you'd be without them, and yet losing them became the doorway to freedom. With this new clarity, you look at your past self trembling, confused, trying so hard, and your heart softens. You no longer judge that version of you. You thank them, because they were the one who kept going. You finally understand that life wasn't punishing you. It was preparing you to see what you couldn't see before, preparing you to become who you couldn't become without the cracking of old identities, preparing you to know peace not as a theory, but as a lived experience earned through fire. There were moments when you felt abandoned by others, by the universe, even by yourself. But now you can see it, you were never truly alone. The hardest moments were when the universe was closest, shaping you quietly in the darkness where light had not yet reached. You were being carved, like stone turning into sculpture, and carving is never gentle work. You see now that some pain came not to stay, but to push you. It pushed you out of situations where your worth was forgotten, It pushed you toward people who could love you more honestly. It pushed you into a deeper relationship with your own soul. And even though you resisted, because humans resist change, even when it is necessary, life remained patient. Life waited for you to see the wisdom hidden inside the wound. There is a calm in your chest now when you think of the past. Not because it was easy, but because you survived what you once thought would destroy you. And survival, when paired with awareness, transforms into wisdom. You are not the person you were before the heartbreak. You are not the person you were before you lost yourself. You are someone softer now, but stronger too. Someone who trusts the timing of things. Someone who understands that closed doors are not failures, they are protection. You begin to recognize patterns, how every ending led to some kind of beginning, how every goodbye cleared space for a new connection, how every disappointment removed what was blocking your path. The universe wasn't taking from you, it was making room. There is a deep sigh of relief in that realization, a release of all the resentment you once carried like armor. The moment you understand that life has always been working with you, not against you, resentment dissolves into respect. You no longer ask, "Why did that happen to me?" Instead, you find yourself whispering, "Thank you for what that taught me." The narrative shifts, the meaning shifts, you shift. And with that shift comes forgiveness, not forced, not obligatory, but natural. Forgiveness not for the sake of others, but for the freedom of your own heart. Forgiveness for the people who hurt you because they were hurting. Forgiveness for your younger self who didn't know better. Forgiveness for the decisions you made out of fear. Forgiveness for the time you believe you wasted. Because now you understand, nothing was wasted. Every experience was a teacher. Every moment was a step. Every step was necessary. Even the detours were part of the path. There is a wisdom that only pain can reveal, the wisdom of humility, compassion, patience, the wisdom of knowing that everything transforms eventually, even the heaviest sorrow. The wisdom of trusting that life unfolds exactly as the soul needs. Even if the mind disagrees, you begin to see that your story was never broken. It was being woven perfectly, intricately, lovingly into a tapestry far bigger than you could see, while living inside a single thread. You no longer rush through difficulty just to escape it. You sit with it, listen to it, learn from it. You know now that every challenge carries a message. Become more of who you truly are. And you do. Slowly, painfully, beautifully you do. Your heart does not close anymore. When life gets hard, it opens wider. Because you trust your own resilience now. You know that you have walked through fire before and found yourself on the other side reborn. What once terrified you now feels like transformation. What once overwhelmed you now feels like growth. You are no longer afraid of falling apart. You have learned that falling apart is sometimes how we fall into alignment. This awakening gives you a new kind of vision. You see purpose where you once saw punishment. You see lessons where you once saw loss. You see grace where you once saw chaos. And peace becomes the lens through which you translate everything. With maturity, you realize life was never trying to break you. It was trying to break open the places where light needed to get in. So you smile at memories that once made you cry. You hold your younger self with tenderness instead of blame. You look at every scar as a reminder that something beautiful was healed beneath it. You notice that pain made you more human, more feeling, more empathetic, more alive. You stop wishing the past were different. Instead, you honor it for the courage it demanded. And one day, maybe today, you take a deep breath and whisper to yourself, "Everything brought me here." Nothing was out of place. In that whisper is acceptance. In that acceptance is freedom. In that freedom is the true beginning of your life. You finally understand that the journey was not about becoming someone new. It was about remembering who you were before fear told you to forget. And now, with eyes softened by truth and a heart expanded by experience, you finally see the beauty in every step that led you home. especially the ones you never would have chosen. Everything, absolutely everything, was part of your becoming. You are remembering, not becoming. There is a misconception we are taught early in life that we must constantly improve, constantly climb, constantly strive to become someone greater than who we are. We are told to chase a better version of ourselves, as though worthiness is always a few steps ahead, waiting on the horizon. But awakening shows you something radically different and radically simple. You are not evolving into someone new. You are remembering who you have always been. The wisdom was always there, buried beneath years of conditioning. The peace was always there, hidden beneath layers of fear. The love was always there, waiting patiently underneath every wound. You are not changing. You are emerging. As you stand at this point in your journey, aware, alive, and open, you can feel the truth of this in your bones. The moments that feel like transformation are simply layers falling away. The clarity you feel isn't a new acquisition. It's the return of your natural vision. You are not reaching upward. You are settling inward. And in this settling, life begins to feel gentler. You stop rushing. You stop forcing. You stop believing that the future holds the answer. Instead, you taste the richness of the moment you are in. Presence becomes your power, not as an idea, but as a lived experience. There is no more performance, no more pretending, no more shaping yourself into versions you were never meant to maintain. You begin to trust that who you are is enough, not in a motivational way, but in a grounded, embodied way. You stop chasing worthiness because you finally feel it breathing inside you. This is what remembering feels like, a soft homecoming that happens quietly within the heart. Life is no longer a problem to solve. It becomes a relationship to nurture. You start listening to your own energy with respect, noticing when something expands you and when something contracts you. You choose what brings peace, not because you are avoiding difficulty, but because you are honoring truth. And honoring truth has become your new form of strength. You don't need dramatic signs or spiritual fireworks to prove you've awakened. The biggest shift is the calm that replaces the noise, the steadiness that replaces panic, the clarity that replaces confusion. You realize that ease is not laziness, it is alignment. You realize that joy without reason is not foolish, it is freedom. You realize that letting go is not giving up, it is trusting life on a deeper level than before. The universe is not asking you to be more, only to be here, fully, honestly, without apology. It whispers not through challenge anymore, but through synchronicities and soft guidance. You don't have to chase signs, you become the one who sees them. You don't have to chase connection, connection finds you. You don't have to chase purpose, purpose reveals itself in every breath you take with awareness. You are no longer climbing a ladder to heaven. You are remembering that heaven was always inside you. When doubt visits, and it will from time to time, you can simply place a hand over your heart and feel the truth pulsing beneath your palm. You are held. You are guided. You are not lost. You are unfolding. The nervous system that once braced for danger now relaxes into trust. The mind that once looked for threats now notices blessings. The heart that once closed to survive now opens to live. Nothing about this journey requires force. The universe does not respond to pressure, it responds to permission. Not to your effort, but to your allowing. When you soften your grip, life steps forward. When you release the need to control, clarity appears. When you stop fighting the moment becomes miraculous. This is how you walk now, not by striving, but by allowing your deepest truth to take the lead. You follow the resonance. You follow what feels like love. You follow the gentle knowing that rises from the quiet space within you. And every time you choose from that place, life expands in ways your mind could never engineer. All that is required from you now is yes. A yes to the version of yourself that is already whole. A yes to the guidance that is already flowing. A yes to the life that is already waiting. Tonight, when your eyes close, and your breath slows into that peaceful rhythm between worlds. You can whisper a simple truth to yourself, a truth that opens every door without force. I am ready to live at the frequency that is already mine. Not someday, not when you become worthy, not when everything looks perfect. Now, because the door has already opened, the shift has already occurred. The version of you that you once prayed to become is here, not arriving here, not forming revealed. You do not need to turn back to look for proof. You do not need to doubt the reality of this new chapter. You only need to walk one soft step at a time into the life that is unfolding in your favor. Trust the simplicity of it. Trust the beauty of it. Trust the truth of what you feel rising inside you. You are not stepping forward into the unknown. You are stepping forward into remembrance, into alignment, into the full expression of a soul that has finally stopped hiding. The universe is not testing you anymore. It is welcoming you home. So breathe, soften, allow. The next chapter does not require the old armor. It asks only for your openness, for your willingness to move with life rather than against it, for your courage to follow the quiet pull of your heart. You have crossed the threshold. You cannot unknow what you now know. You cannot shrink back into a version that no longer fits. Continue walking. Continue remembering. Continue choosing the frequency that feels like truth. Everything else, the timing, the support, the miracles, is being handled by a universe that has never once forgotten who you are. Your only task now is to live fully, freely, unapologetically as the self you have finally remembered.